He built a fortune from nothing and lost his son without even noticing. This isn't a story about money. It's about what it cost him to earn it and what he had to lose to become a father again. The day Benjamin Hale signed the deal that would change his life forever, his son Leo didn't even look up from his cereal. The boy was 12, old enough to understand what money meant, but not old enough to understand what it could take. Ben stood at the edge of the kitchen island, still in his suit from the meeting. The contract was in his briefcase, heavy like a loaded gun, $49 million over 5 years, a logistics company buyout one he'd built from scratch, stacking pallets by hand in a rented garage while Leo slept in a pack-and-play next to the forklift. He had built the company for Leo, or so he told himself. But when the numbers were that big, the purpose started to feel blurry. "I did it," Ben said. He smiled too wide, eyes red-rimmed from sleepless nights and silent wars with lawyers. "We're rich, kid." Leo didn't smile, just spooned another mouthful of Cheerios and asked, "Does that mean we don't eat dinner together anymore?" Ben blinked. "What?" Leo shrugged, just asking. Ben tried to laugh, but it came out crooked. "Of course we will. Come on, bud, this is good news." Leo didn't reply. He got up, dumped his bowl in the sink, and wandered back upstairs, leaving a trail of wet footprints from his socks. Ben looked down and realized the kitchen floor was damp. Leo must have spilled milk and not said a word. Later that week, the house changed. Contractors arrived, turning the garage into a gym. The cracked driveway was replaced with marble pavers. 2 cars, one black, one red, appeared in the front like chess pieces on a new board. At dinner, Ben started talking about a move to the West Coast. Better schools, better climate, better life. Leo didn't say no, but he didn't say much of anything anymore. Ben told himself it was just an adjustment period. The night before they left New Jersey, Ben found Leo in his room, sitting cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by a fortress of cardboard boxes. The boy held a photograph in his lap, a picture of Ben, greasy and grinning, holding baby Leo with oil-streaked hands. "You remember this?" Leo asked, not looking up. Ben did, of course he did. That photo was taken the day he bought his first delivery van. "I worked hard for all this," Ben said, "so you wouldn't have to." Leo looked at him then, eyes too still, "But I liked how it was before." It hit Ben like a punch, the before. When he came home smelling like diesel, when their Saturday treat was a drive-through milkshake, when Leo still talked to him about Minecraft and school bullies, before the stockbrokers, the board meetings, and the real estate agent who kept saying oceanfront exposure like it meant something to a 12-year-old. In LA, the house was a palace with no soul. Leo's new room had a balcony, a 70-inch TV, and a full drum set he hadn't asked for. Ben thought he was giving the kid everything. But every night he sat alone on that balcony, legs dangling over the edge, headphones clamped tight. The drums stayed untouched. So did Ben's heart, slowly hardening like cement in an unfinished foundation. The final straw came in the form of a birthday party. Ben spared no expense, rented a yacht, hired a celebrity DJ, even got a guy to show up dressed like Leo's favorite video game character. Leo didn't smile once. Halfway through the night, Ben found him alone on the lower deck, sitting beside a bucket of melted ice and staring out at the sea. "Don't you like it?" Ben asked, voice tentative. Leo stood. "It's not for me, it's for them." He gestured toward the party upstairs, the influencers, the entrepreneurs, the money chasers. "You don't even know me anymore." Ben reached for him, but Leo stepped back. "You sold your company, Dad, just don't sell me too." The words hit harder than any business negotiation ever had. Ben watched his son walk away, swallowed by music and light, and realized the truth he'd been dodging for months. He had won the world, but somewhere along the road, he'd lost his boy. Ben Hale began to measure time in silences. The longest one lasted 8 days. Leo didn't speak a word to him, not a greeting, not even a grunt. They lived in the same mansion, shared the same high-speed internet, even passed each other in the kitchen where a private chef now arranged meals like paintings. But between them, nothing. Just the cold hum of the refrigerator and footsteps on imported tile. Ben tried, God, he tried. He offered tickets to the Lakers, a private surf lesson, a meet and greet with Leo's favorite YouTuber. Leo didn't yell, didn't slam doors, he just shrugged, the way kids do when they stop believing Santa Claus loves them back. So Ben dove deeper into work. If fatherhood was slipping away, maybe business could fill the space. He poured money into venture funds, bought out a boutique shipping startup, started wearing suits again. His bank account swelled, his schedule thickened. He told himself it was for Leo's future, for college, for legacy. Then one day, he came home to find Leo gone. Not kidnapped, not vanished, just not there. There was a note in sharp pencil. "Staying with Mom, I'll come back when you're not a stranger." Ben stood in the doorway for a long time, holding that note. His ex-wife, Meredith, lived just across the city. She was the first person he ever truly loved, and the first to look at him like she didn't recognize him anymore. They divorced when Leo was 6. The spark had already been dying, snuffed out by Ben's obsession with growing the business. Meredith had begged him to slow down, be present. Money doesn't hug back, she'd said once, wiping tears as Leo watched cartoons on the couch. Ben had thought she was being dramatic. Now her words echoed louder than ever. He waited 3 days before calling her. Pride maybe, or fear. "Is he okay?" he asked. "He's fine," she replied. Her voice was neutral but firm. "We talk, he sleeps. He's quieter than he used to be, but I guess he learned that from you." Ben exhaled slowly. "I just want to talk to him." "Then maybe stop throwing money at him like it's love." That stung more than it should have. He drove to her house the next evening, uninvited, parked 3 blocks away like a teenager. Leo was in the yard, shooting hoops in the fatting sun. Alone, hair longer now, a little messier. He looked older, more self-contained. Ben watched from the car, heart thudding like a warning drum. He didn't get out. Instead, he went back to his car and drove through the night, past the waterfront, past the shuttered diners and the laundromats where he used to tape flyers for his company. His old stomping grounds. He parked outside the rusted gate of his first warehouse, the place where Hale Logistics had been born. It was abandoned now, tagged with graffiti, windows broken like missing teeth. He sat there until the sky turned pale gray, trying to remember who he used to be. The next morning, he did something radical. He shut it all down. The meetings, the advisors, the deals. He called his assistant and told her to cancel everything indefinitely. "I need to fix my life," he said. She didn't argue. Then he got into his car and drove back to Meredith's. Leo answered the door this time. Ben didn't smile, didn't posture, he just said, "I want to earn you back." Leo blinked. For a moment, Ben thought he saw something flicker, a spark, or maybe just confusion. "You can't buy me," Leo said quietly. "I know," Ben replied, "that's why I sold the yacht." Leo raised his eyebrows. "You what?" "I sold the yacht, the watches, the cars. I even told the chef to go home." Leo looked past him, as if expecting to see some camera crew filming a redemption story. "I'm not doing this to look good," Ben said. "I'm doing it because I forgot what matters, and you're what matters." The words hung in the space between them, raw, honest, imperfect. Leo didn't open the door wider, but he didn't close it either. Which for Ben was the first sign of hope in a very long time. The first dinner was awkward. Ben sat at Meredith's small dining table, his elbows too close to the edges, knees knocking against the underside like a kid at the grown-up table. Leo sat across from him, eyes flicking between his plate and the TV in the other room. Meredith placed a steaming casserole in the center, the smell of garlic and baked cheese spreading through the modest bungalow. No chef, no menus, just food. "You used to love this," she said to Leo with a faint smile. "Remember, you'd ask for extra even when your mouth was full." Leo gave a half smile, then silence. Ben cleared his throat. "It smells amazing, better than anything I've had in months." Meredith didn't reply. She sat down quietly, folding her hands in her lap like she wasn't sure how to be here either. The silence felt like a fourth guest at the table, more familiar than any of them wanted to admit. Ben tried again. "I started volunteering." Meredith blinked. "Volunteering?" "At a youth center downtown, they help kids transition out of foster care. Job skills, GED tutoring, all that." Leo's fork paused midair. "Why?" Ben didn't flinch. "Because I needed to do something that didn't make me richer, something that made me useful." He watched his son carefully. There was no explosion, no tears, but Leo chewed slower after that. And that night, as they packed leftovers into Tupperware, he didn't put his headphones on. It wasn't a miracle, it was a beginning. Ben didn't move back into the mansion. He leased a modest apartment near the old neighborhood, close enough to see Leo on weekends but far enough to prove he wasn't just playing the long game. He kept the bare minimum: a mattress on the floor, a couch from Craigslist, a chipped coffee table with ring marks he didn't bother polishing out. And for the first time in years, he started sleeping through the night. Leo came over one Saturday unannounced. Ben was painting the walls a dull gray, the kind that looked different in every light. Leo stood in the doorway, hands in his pockets. "You're really doing this?" he asked. Ben turned, brush dripping. "Yeah, I am." Leo nodded slowly. "Mom says you turned down another buyout offer, that true?" Ben smiled. "Yeah, I did." "Why?" "Because I don't want to build something that takes me away from people anymore." They stood there for a second, in the smell of paint and dried effort. Then Leo wandered in, picked up a roller, and started helping without another word. That was how it went for weeks, little things, Leo asking to ride bikes, Ben showing him how to patch a tire, movie nights with burnt popcorn and too many blankets, no lavish promises, no guilt-laced lectures, just presence, consistency. Then one afternoon, Leo asked if he could bring a friend over. Ben agreed a little too eagerly. The friend was a lanky boy named Wheeze, all elbows and nervous glances. Ben offered them sodas, kept his distance, but something about Wheeze made his skin itch, not in a judgmental way, but in the way a man notices things most people miss. The kid's backpack was too small for school books, and he kept checking his phone like he expected bad news. Later that night, Leo brought it up. Wheeze doesn't really have anyone, his mom works nights. Dad's gone, I think he sleeps on couches a lot. Ben nodded slowly, you want him to stay here. Leo hesitated, just once in a while you'd like him if you talked to him. Ben did over time. He saw pieces of himself in Wheeze, the hunger, the edge, the walls built too early. One night Wheeze asked Ben how he made his money. Ben looked him straight in the eyes. I built something, then I let it own me, then I burned it down and started over. Wheeze stared, that's the coolest thing I've ever heard. Ben laughed, not out of pride, out of relief. That night, after both boys had passed out on the couch, tangled in video game controllers and soda cans, Ben sat on the balcony. The city lights blinked far away, and for the first time they didn't feel like a scoreboard. He didn't need more. He just needed this. The call came just after midnight. Ben was asleep on the couch again, an old habit he hadn't shaken since his warehouse days. His phone buzzed once, then again, insistent, like it knew the voice on the other end would leave a scar. It was Meredith's. Leo's not home, she said, her voice thin and shaking. He didn't come back after practice. I called the school, his friends, nothing. He's not answering his phone. Ben was already on his feet, keys in hand, shoes forgotten. I'm on my way. His mind raced faster than the car tearing down La Chenega. Had he missed something? A sign? Was it Wheeze? Drugs? No, he'd been careful. He knew the streets. He knew what it looked like when a kid started slipping. He checked the youth center first, then the skate park, then the alley behind the old video store where he and Leo once sat on the curb eating melting popsicles. Empty, the silence of memory. Then Wheeze called. Don't be mad, the boy said, voice thick with panic. Leo he wanted to do something big, something real. I told him it was dumb, but he didn't listen. Ben's voice was steel, where is he? Wheeze gave an address, an abandoned rooftop downtown. Ben knew the place. It used to be a freight terminal, now a haunt for urban explorers and kids who wanted to feel immortal. He found Leo near the edge, legs dangling, city spinning below him like a roulette wheel. Ben didn't yell, didn't demand. He just walked quietly and sat beside his son. The wind was cold, sharp, full of everything unsaid. You scared the hell out of me, Ben finally said. Leo didn't look at him, I just wanted to feel something. You feel nothing when you're this close to falling, Ben said gently. Leo's voice cracked. I don't know who I'm supposed to be anymore. Not poor, not rich, just in between, like I got shoved into someone else's movie. Ben inhaled slowly, that's on me. They sat like that for a long while. The city below them didn't care who they were. Didn't care about net worth or broken promises or the million little ways a father could fail a son. I was wrong, Ben said. I thought money would build a better life for you, but all it did was build walls between us. Leo looked at him then, really looked. Why you change, he asked. Ben didn't answer right away. He stared into the skyline, the blinking red light of a distant crane swaying like a metronome. Because I saw who I was becoming, he said, and I hated him. Leo's voice was barely a whisper, I hated him too. Ben swallowed hard. But I don't hate you, Leo added, I just don't know you yet. That was when Ben knew forgiveness wasn't a door you walked through, it was a hallway, one step at a time. Back at Meredith's, she didn't say, I told you so. She just hugged Leo so hard his shoulders shook, then she looked at Ben and nodded, a quiet thank you. Later in the parking lot, Ben sat in his car and stared at his reflection in the rearview mirror. He didn't see a millionaire or a father, just a man trying to become one. He started seeing Leo twice a week, then 3 times, then whenever they felt like it. One Sunday, Leo invited him to a school debate. Ben arrived early, sat in the back, and listened as his son dismantled a panel of private school kids with logic so sharp it sliced the air. Afterwards, Leo ran up to him. Did you see that cross-examination? He grinned. Ben grinned back, you were a beast. It was the first time in years they'd smiled at the same time. The next week, Leo asked to visit the youth center, just to see. He stayed for 3 hours, helping organize a clothing drive. When Ben picked him up, Leo had dirt under his nails and a paper cut on his cheek. "Feels good," he said, climbing into the car. Ben nodded. "Better than a yacht." Leo smirked. "A lot less annoying music." That night, Ben made them grilled cheese, burnt the edges. Leo still ate too. Outside, rain tapped gently on the windows. Inside, warmth pooled in places money could never reach. It wasn't a perfect ending, but it was a real beginning. Leo was 16 when he finally asked the question Ben had feared the most. "Did you love Mom, or did you just marry her because it made sense back then?" It came out of nowhere, over eggs and coffee, in the kind of silence that only exists between people learning to be honest. Ben set his fork down carefully. He looked older now, the silver in his hair no longer a hint but a statement. His hands, though calloused by labor and then softened by wealth, had finally settled somewhere in between. "I loved her," Ben said, "but I didn't know how to keep her." Leo looked at him, waiting. "I thought providing was enough," Ben continued. "That love was just another thing you earned with effort. I didn't realize you had to nurture it, protect it. I failed her not because I didn't love her, but because I didn't show up when it mattered." Leo nodded. "So you regret it?" Ben didn't flinch. "I regret what I became and that I didn't fix it sooner." Leo seemed satisfied with that, not because it was perfect, but because it was true. In the months that followed, something remarkable happened. The past stopped dragging them down. It didn't disappear, but it stopped defining everything. Leo laughed more. Ben stopped second-guessing every word. They found rhythm in bike rides and midnight pancakes, in shared silences that didn't hurt. One Friday night, Leo brought home a girl named Mila. She was sharp and shy, with chipped nail polish and a quiet way of watching the room like she'd already read its secrets. Ben shook her hand gently and didn't make a dad joke. Progress. Later, as they cleaned up the kitchen, Leo whispered, "She's in foster care. Third placement in 2 years. I didn't want her to eat dinner in silence again." Ben felt something shift inside him, a mix of sorrow and pride. He nodded. "She's welcome anytime." The house, once a cold container of regrets, had become a place of warmth and refuge. Not grand, not immaculate, but real. Then came the letters. A corporate giant, Global Mart Freight, wanted to buy Hale Logistics again, not the remnants but the brand, the name. They wanted to use it for a new line of eco-conscious delivery hubs. They were offering $30 million up front. Ben stared at the offer for a long time. He didn't need the money, but something about the idea, about someone else owning the name he'd bled for, sat wrong. He took the letter to Leo. "What would you do?" Ben asked. Leo shrugged. "What do you want them to think of when they hear Hale Logistics? The dollar signs or the story?" Ben paused. "The story. The sweat, the failures, the first van with the heater that only worked when you braked too hard. The long nights Leo spent in a sleeping bag beside the loading dock. The people they helped now, Wheeze, Mila, others." He turned the offer down. Instead, he filed to turn Hale Logistics into a non-profit arm, focused on giving ex-juvenile youth trade skills and a job pipeline. A real second chance with dignity baked in. The boardroom laughed at first, then he showed them numbers, not profits. Lives changed. That was harder to argue with. Leo started working weekends at the center. He fixed bikes, taught other teens how to write a resume, even spoke at a panel once. He wasn't trying to be like Ben, he was trying to be better. That fall, Leo got into Stanford, full ride, community leadership scholarship. Ben cried, not in front of him but hard, in the car, parked under a quiet tree. A father's grief mixed with joy, the realization that he'd done enough to make up for the damage, not erase it, but heal it. The night before Leo left for college, they sat on the porch together, watching the city hum below. "Think you'll miss me?" Leo asked, teasing. "Already do," Ben said. Leo reached into his bag and pulled out an old photo, oil-streaked hands holding a baby. The same photo he once held when the world was breaking apart. "I want this in my dorm," Leo said, "so I remember who I come from." Ben looked away, trying to hide the tears. "Hey," Leo said softly, nudging his arm, "you did good, Dad." Ben shook his head. "You did better." And for the first time in years, the silence between them was peaceful. Learned. Ben Hale didn't fly first class to his son's graduation. He took a bus. Not because he couldn't afford the flight, he could, but because he remembered the look on Leo's face that night on the yacht. How much it had hurt to be given things instead of time. So he bought a thermos, packed a few sandwiches, and rode 6 hours through valleys and tired towns, watching the world pass slowly, beautifully. At Stanford, the air buzzed with ambition. Proud parents posed beside stone archways, kids balanced honor cords and diplomas in jittery hands. Leo stood taller now, his face more defined, but he still smiled with that lopsided grin that reminded Ben of jelly-stained lunchboxes and late-night cartoons. After the ceremony, Leo pulled him aside. "There's something I need you to see." They walked past the quad, through the dorms, and down into a quiet building near the social sciences wing. There, on a wall of student research posters and community projects, was a flyer. "Hail Foundation from Freight to Futures." A photo of Ben in his early days, surrounded by kids at the youth center. A tagline, "What you build matters less than who you build it with." Ben stared, swallowed. "I didn't do this," Leo said. "One of the girls we mentored made it. Said your story made her believe in second chances." Ben didn't speak, couldn't. Leo nudged him, "Told you legacy's not just money." They laughed, then hugged, not as penance but as celebration. That summer, Leo came home to help expand the foundation. We joined full-time as a mentor. Mila, now in a stable home, started college part-time while interning at a local paper. They weren't success stories, they were in progress, and that was enough. One evening, as the sun dropped behind the youth center, casting long golden lines across the pavement, Ben walked out to find Leo sitting on the steps, surrounded by 3 kids playing with a broken soccer ball. "They don't care who you were," Leo said quietly, "only who you show up as now." Ben nodded, he understood that more than ever. He sold the mansion officially that fall, took the money and split it 3 ways into the foundation, a small trust for Leo and a housing grant for aging foster youth. He moved into a 1-bedroom above the center, where he could hear the thump of basketballs and the soft rhythm of second chances. One Sunday, he found an old notebook in storage. Inside were goals he'd written in the early days of Hale Logistics. Buy a house. Send Leo to college. Make 1M before 40. Take care of Meredith even if she hates me. Be someone my son wants to talk to. He traced his finger over that last line, smiled. On his 53rd birthday, they threw a barbecue outside the center. Nothing fancy, just burgers, soda, and music from a Bluetooth speaker. Leo gave a short speech, choking slightly as he said, "Most people chase wealth to feel like they matter. My dad gave up wealth to be someone who matters." Ben didn't cry in front of everyone, but later that night, as he walked the empty halls of the center, he paused by a mirror, noticed the lines on his face, the calm in his eyes. He had everything he never thought to want. Not just wealth, but connection. Not just success, but forgiveness. Not just a legacy, but a life. And in the quiet that followed, he whispered to the empty room, "I'm proud of you too." Years passed the way they often do, quietly, and then all at once. Ben didn't grow richer, not financially. The foundation ran lean by design, grants came, some left, volunteers rotated like seasons. But the mission stayed firm: teach, listen, guide, build the kind of world no one ever built for him. He stopped wearing watches. Not because of principle, he just stopped needing to know the time every minute. He measured his days by people, not deadlines. Leo graduated law school, not corporate, not entertainment, public defense. "I want to fight for kids who don't have a dad who figured it out just in time," he told Ben over coffee one morning, back in that tiny apartment kitchen. Ben just nodded, "Then you're already wealthier than I ever was." They didn't say "I love you" often, they didn't need to. One summer, Leo brought Meredith to the Foundation's 10th anniversary celebration. She hadn't been back in years, but the moment she stepped into the hall, now decorated with framed photos, handmade art, and student essays, she froze. "This is yours?" she asked. Ben hesitated. "No, it's theirs. I just kept the lights on long enough for them to build it." Meredith smiled softly. "That's the man I thought I married." They didn't rekindle anything romantic, but something deeper returned: respect, trust, the kind of love that doesn't demand anything except gratitude for the life shared, no matter how broken it got. One night, Ben got a letter in the mails. No return address, just a folded piece of paper inside. "I was in juvie, you spoke at our center in 29. I thought you were full of crap, but your story stuck. I got clean, got a job, my son's never seen me drunk. That's because of you." "Thank you, Lems." Ben folded the letter, slipped it into a drawer already filled with others like it. Some handwritten, some emailed, some just scraps of drawings from little kids who liked that the man with the gray beard remembered their names. And still, Ben lived simply. He woke early, walked the block, talked to janitors like they were board members, wrote letters by hand, never touched a yacht again. The last time he saw Leo before everything changed, they were painting the new annex to the center. The Hale Room. The teens called it jokingly because it always smelled like old coffee and stubborn hope. "You think you'll ever retire?" Leo asked, roller in hand, streak of blue across his cheek. Ben smiled, retired from what? Living. Leo laughed, "I'll take that as a no." Ben died 3 years later. A quiet morning, no pain, just didn't wake up. Leo found the note by the bed, not dramatic, not poetic. "I'm not scared. Because you're the part of me I got right. Keep going. Love. Dad." The funeral was standing room only, not because Ben had money, but because he'd given something harder to find: presence. We spoke first, choking through tears. Mila read a poem. Meredith told a story about the first time Ben showed up to a parent-teacher conference in grease-covered boots and charmed every teacher in the building. And Leo? Leo stood last. He didn't prepare notes, didn't need them. My father wasn't perfect, but he fought for redemption harder than most men fight for fame. And in the end, he found it, not in gold, but in people, in me, in you. That's the kind of rich I want to be. He walked offstage to a standing ovation. Years later, people still told stories about Ben Hale. Not about his millions, but about the way he listened. The way he remembered birthdays. The way he chose to start over when it would have been easier to disappear behind glass walls and luxury. Legacy, it turns out, isn't what you leave in a will. It's what you leave in people. And Ben Hale's. He left everything that mattered.